Some claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but here at 284 Media, we disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still stand. Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and of course, our partners that hold us down. I'm Ron Grant. Welcome to Season 2 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. Now, please, don't worry. It's not always about suits and bow ties, but real, raw conversations that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. Thank you all for taking this journey with me. Inspiration and motivation comes in different forms. With so much going on around us, it's refreshing to come across young men of quality. My next guest today is a son of the soil. He's humble, disciplined, approachable, caring, and considerate. Now, I can tell you his care goes far beyond his immediate circle, and I'm pretty sure that's why he chose the profession he did. He's super gifted. He spends his days impacting the lives of others through motivation, especially young people. Now, please don't let his caring and considerate spirit fool you. He's also a Purple Dragon black belt, so he can definitely give you a serious beatdown if he has to. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me is one of my absolute favorite people, Mr. Jovan Cline, by far one of the most incredible human beings to ever walk this earth. And we should be considered, ourselves very truly blessed to have him, a true 21st century distinguished gentleman. We talk leading the youth, the discipline of Purple Dragon, the art of worship, counseling, and mental health for men. It's a conversation you don't want to miss. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. You're watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Let's go. Brilliant Hands and Minds Tutoring Services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals. Viewers, welcome back. You're watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. I'm your host, Ron Grant. Jovan Cline, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the opportunity to speak with us. Cheers. Now, in the intro, I mentioned that you are absolutely one of my favorite people.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
that is the utmost, with the utmost of sincerity, because you have one of the most caring and considerate spirits I've ever come across. And that spirit not only echoes to your immediate circle, but everyone around you, and I've experienced that myself. You're also a PK, pastor's kid, right?
Yes.
So before we get into the interview, there are a lot of myths about PKs. Some people call them gangsters, they're rebel, they're always in trouble. Let's talk about, let's get that out of the way.
Let's get it out of the way.
Being a PK. Well, is that true? What is that like?
I can't speak for everybody, of course. For myself, I had a phase. I had a phase, a real phase. But you see, the thing about me, I knew how to move. So people would never, unless you were in my circle, or unless you were friends with me, like while I was in high school or community college, you wouldn't know how I was.
Good.
You know,
we have a lot in common.
yeah. So I was smart about how I would move.
Good.
So yeah, no, there was a real period where I didn't care about religious conversation. You know, if there was a religious topic happening, count me out. I was the leader of my crew when it comes to planning what we're going to do. You know, I started drinking when I was like 12 years old, something like that. And yeah, once I started, it was good for me, and I continue going like that. But yeah, I used to gather up my friends. We used to have something we used to call pack nights. I won't tell you how old we were.
Okay.
But yeah, somehow we used to be able to get bottles of alcohol, because we figured out from a certain age, we figured out that, you know, buying bottles is cheaper than trying to buy drinks.
Of course.
You get a bottle and then, you just set up. So we used to have some called pack nights where we would just go get some bottles somehow and sit down in the pack and just drink and talk and, so on and so forth. Don't ask me how we used to get home. I'm not always sure. I don't know how we always used to get home.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, But yeah, that kind of stuff. I'm not the worst. And I would always tell people among my group of friends, at least group of friends who I grew up with, you would probably consider me the nicer one of the group. Thinking about the group I grew up with in King Adamby especially, not necessarily my school group.
Okay.
But yeah, I wasn't the most. I was a cold guy, especially in high school, because of the people that were around me who I felt I needed to look up to or depend on. I didn't feel like I could depend on them, and there was a lot of hurt and stuff going on around me. Parents divorced, stuff going on like that. Church people being church people, community, people don't like my father and have their opinion about my mother, all this kind of stuff. So I made a decision to just cut off all of that emotion because I said, I don't want anyone to ever worry about me. I don't want people to look at me and say, oh, woe is he, and So I always made sure I always smiled, I always laughed, and I was always good. What I didn't realize is that I was cutting off a real chunk of my emotions to have me actually care about people. So I went through all of high school and some of college, just really not caring, doing what I want when it comes to people's emotions and feelings, backstabbing friends. I have no idea why I still have the friends I have, because I was that guy who I would give you some good advice when we sit down, but the moment we get in class, now we call it bullying. I would bully you.
Wow.
Bad, pick out the small thing about you and just make it everything. But yeah, that was the rebel side of it for me. Okay. I didn't give trouble at home necessarily, or I didn't have anyone come into the police station for me. But I was just doing my own thing. Okay. Yeah, we could. I mean, if you want me to go on and on, I could go on and on.
You touched on some very personal and intimate details that would have led you to that level or that type of rebellion. But let's go back there for a second, because what I think a lot of persons in our territory don't understand when it comes to whether it's public office, but being in the public eye in any fashion, whether you're a preacher, minister of government, perhaps even being on television and delivering the news, people don't understand that with that comes the scrutiny of the family. Yeah. Okay? When you think about all that you went through in dealing and maneuvering through the challenges, what would you say really essentially helped you to mature and develop and I guess get over it, if that's the good term to use?
The point where I wanted to actually change was when I had to sit down on the phone and listen to somebody cry about what I did to them. And that's when I really looked in the mirror and I was like, what am I doing? Who am I? Like, what am I really? And that was still in high school, which is, I didn't turn things around right away, but it was the first time I really looked at myself and asked, what am I doing? Why am I, how am I this cold? Yeah. The second thing that really pointed it out to me is when a friend of mine died right in fifth form, few months, weeks before we were going to graduate, and I could have gone through that day fine. Not because I didn't care about the person, but that part of me to actually express that wasn't there. Okay. So I could have gone through that day very fine, And I spent most of the day just thinking, why am I not crying? Why am I? Because everybody else was, obviously hurt. This is someone who has been in my home. This is someone who I've laughed with, studied with, gotten help from, a real friend. And she died, and it didn't hit me, and I was like, I am a monster, you know? And that went on and on and on, and into college, I came to points where I used to, one of my prayers was, God, let me cry. Like, let me cry. I just want to cry. Because it wasn't there. It was not there at all. Yeah.
Would you change anything? Knowing what you may know in how you chose to grieve and deal with people and hide your emotions, and whether it was dealing with the public's perception of your dad or the separation of your parents or who didn't like your mom, would you change anything?
I'm not a person who really lives with regret, honestly. But what I would change is how I treated certain people.
Okay.
Especially exes and stuff like that. They didn't deserve that. So that's something that I if there's anything at all that I would change, just how I necessarily left people, because I can't go back and take away certain scars or certain things and stuff like that. So that would probably be the only thing I would change. There is a certain resilience that I do have because of how I grew up. I can sit down and have someone tell me the most outrageous things and take it. I can sit down with my wife and have a conversation about,
the tough conversations.
Yeah, the tough conversations, and separate myself as a husband. Or we could have a conversation about, who she thinks is attractive, and I could take myself out of that husband role and be her friend, and so those kind of things, I would say are the benefits of it. And it all comes down to balance.
Okay, let's speak to that a little bit, because a lot of times young men of our age have a difficult time accepting when there's something not quite right, whether it's as an individual or in a marriage. You spend a lot of time speaking and interacting with young people as a youth leader and a worship leader as well. And we don't, for some reason, mental health is not the conversation we want to have, but particularly as men, it is just literally not talked about. Speak to the importance of the man being in the right frame of mind and really addressing any issues that he might be facing.
It's actually I would say it's probably the most important thing, especially for men, because your mind is your filter of the world. A body takes in. I'm gonna get a little bit into science now. I'm a science buff. So your eyes, your ears, it takes in the physical world, and everything is processed through your mind, and that tells you what is your reality. So if your mind isn't balanced, if your mind isn't well, if you are not in the right place, then your world will be twisted. If you're walking wrong with scars or sadness or unresolved issues, you'll be living in an unresolved world as an unresolved person. And you can only produce what you are. If there's a tree with rotten roots, that tree is only going to produce rotten fruits. Yeah. So for men in society, even I acknowledge the strength of a woman. I acknowledge, the importance that they play. I acknowledge the fact that women can lead and should be leading in a lot of situations. Agreed. And so on and so forth. But men have a natural gift for being visionaries. So if as a man you are not well enough to maintain stable vision, you'll either, one, carry on or encourage something that's twisted in the world because it's what you believe is right and true, or you'll create more corruption. You know, we go out and we create things. We determine what the world looks like tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So if we can't get it right here for us, when we touch something, when we speak to something, when we create something, it's going to look twisted. And the horrible thing is, you know, when we create a twisted thing, because we have already settled ourselves with a twisted mind, we're going to see that twisted thing and say, it's good. Mm-hmm. We're going to see that twisted thing and say, it's exactly what it needs to be. Not
Absolutely.
Knowing what we actually created.
Right.
So when everybody else is telling us, hey, you have a problem, hey, this is what's going on, hey, we're gonna think they have the problem because
you can't see it.
You know, you can't see what you created. You can't see what you're doing. You can't see the hurt that you're causing, and that's where, for me, the biggest danger comes in. And that, you know, that creation, that fruit comes in a product of a child, comes in a product of laws, morals, or society on a whole. It comes in a product of just basic ideas, you know, things like that.
You spend your days, for lack of a better phrase, allowing others to dump or share their weaknesses or their issues with you. How do you, as a man, separate yourself from the role of a counselor? When you sit with somebody for a session, be it 45 minutes or longer, and they are digesting some very toxic, hurtful, painful realities of their life, how do you separate yourself from that? And perhaps maybe you don't, but how do you balance digesting that information so that it doesn't affect you as an individual?
That very word you just used, balance, that's definitely the answer right there. As you give time to others, you have to find time for yourself. And this admittedly is one thing that I definitely need to work on, because you will get lost in the mix of everything that's happening. You'll find yourself, whether it's anxious or just sad or just angry, just because of the weight that you feel like it's on your shoulders. You have to help this person and figure this out and then get this thing going and plan for this and all these things that's on your table. You have to find time for yourself.
I can appreciate that.
You have to isolate. I love being by myself. I love being alone. And you know, for all the people who are in relationships out there, if your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever friend, if they are expressing that they need time by themselves, give them that time. Because when we don't get that time, we don't get to reconnect.
But we're robbing ourselves essentially.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that, you know, taking time for myself, and I do karate.
Yes, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
You know, and before we get too deep in it, I'll just to finish answering the questions. The dojo has been a safe haven for me for a long time before I even know it. Like I go there, and every punch, the only thing that exists is that punch.
Wow.
Every kick, the only thing that exists is that kick. You know, when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, that's the only thing that exists in that moment. So I was able to find something like that for me. That
you like and enjoy.
Right. So you have to find something that you can flow in, where the world fades away and you're just there. You're just there.
So speaking of the dojo, Purple Dragon, you're a black belt and you're also a trainer. A lot of people have the misconception it's just about a good ass kicking, right? You're just gonna fight. But there's a discipline to it.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How did you even get into the Purple Dragon?
Okay, I'll start from there. When I was in first form, my dad asked me if I wanted to join. I said, yeah, I want to join. And for me at that point, it was just about, okay, I'm going to learn how to kick and punch and, you know, go from there. And, you know, there was this aspect of discipline that these people wanted me to follow. Yeah. Like, They want me to stand up in a line and not move. They want me to not talk. Like, there was this one guy actually who, I love him like a brother now. He is one of my brothers. I call his name Otis Jacob. Hated this guy. Hated this guy because he was so serious. Why are you so serious about me being here for 1 hour to just learn a little kick and punch? Leave me alone. But fast forward to when we're coming up to our first grading. Grading is the testing that takes place where you are judged to see if you can move on to your next rank or not. There was a Sensei Wendell from Trinidad who came up to help us prepare. And he told us a story about a boy and a butterfly. And I won't go through the whole story now. But that was the first story I ever heard in Purple Dragon. And that's when I fell in love with the art. Because the moral of the story is your struggle makes you stronger.
Of course.
I really want to paraphrase the story so they can understand what I'm
Go
saying.
ahead.
This is the paraphrase version is there's a boy who loves butterflies. He's in this garden, his grandfather's garden. He comes across a cocoon. He sees a butterfly struggling out. He decides to open the cocoon for the butterfly. Butterfly, instead of flying away, falls to the ground. He picks up the butterfly, goes to his grandfather, asks his grandfather, why is this happening? His grandfather asks him if he opened the cocoon for the butterfly. He says yes. And then his grandfather explains, because you opened the cocoon for the butterfly, right, you took away the butterfly's opportunity to strengthen its wings by pushing out of the cocoon by itself. So the wings aren't strong enough to fly.
Yes.
When I heard that thing, man, I was like, what? I said, what in the world is this? I love it.
Nice.
So ever since that moment, I've been in love with the heart of Purple Dragon. And that's something, even though Purple Dragon is a martial arts style that has proven to be very deadly and effective in many ways, I think what separates it in a major way from a lot of these just other martial arts, because you have all kind of different styles out there. What separates it is the heart that it teaches, the mindset that it teaches is irreplaceable. And I would not be who I am right now, how I am, without getting into the dojo.
Amazing.
And staying in the dojo is, that mindset.
I want to touch, and I have to absolutely touch on the art of worship, which I think is absolutely imperative to the mind, body, and soul. Born and raised in the church myself, I know it all too well. And I have persons to this day that would really and truly beg me and why you don't sing no more? What happened? Like da.
I know you to be a good singer, yeah.
And I'm not there right now. I'm not there. However, your worship is so impactful. Your music is so impactful. Your voice is phenomenal. Speak to the art of worship and what that does to the man.
For me, I could describe a release. And I'll give you a funny story after. But acknowledging the power of God, acknowledging the presence, acknowledging the strength, it's everything in one. Because what you're doing in that moment is reaching for an expression that truly goes beyond what can be expressed. And in the process of reaching for that expression, you have no choice but to just let go. Because you know in that moment, if I stay where I am, I'm not going to accomplish what I'm trying to do right now. So that moment of release and staying in that flow of release, it is amazing. It's a reset, and it's also a boost. It's calming, it's exhilarating, it's everything in one. And worship, without a doubt, is one of my favorite things.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's everything in one. You know, and being a part of that experience, I count it a blessing. The funny thing is, during that phase that I was in, you know, not really paying attention to God and so forth, when my mom would, you know, tell me, listen, you need to be at church, I'm leaving, I want to see you in church, I would time it out. This at the time, Pastor Mel would be at King Adamy Baptist Church. He would start preaching at 12. So I would make sure I walk into the church at 12.
Okay.
Praise and worship wasn't important.
Okay.
I don't need to be there for praise and worship. I just need to be there for when he's speaking, you know? So that was my routine. After going out the night before, come home, you know, I have my time to get myself together in the morning. It takes me like 5 minutes to walk down the hill or, you know, to get to the church. So leave my house, 11:55.
In time to hear Pastor
In time to just walk into the church at 12. And that was good. And it was until the point where Pastor Mel again said, it wasn't even to me directly, because again, I wasn't a prominent youth at the church. I was there, I was in youth group or, you know, stuff like that. But he told another youth, he wants the young people to start singing on Youth Sunday. So pull together a team. And she came to me, she said, hey, this is what Pastor Mel said he wants. And I said, okay, cool. And that's why I got into it. And of course, you know, it wasn't a fall in love thing at the same time. I'd still go out and drink a lot the night before. There was even one time coming from Carrot Bay Fest, when I drink alcohol and then I laugh and I shout and all that kind of stuff.
It messes with your vocals.
Yeah, it's bad. So there was one Sunday after, festival, where I did all that I could do. And then I had a solo on Sunday, and I screeched.
Don't you just hate that?
I want to make it clear. This was not a singing and then crack. I mean, I was talking like this and singing like this. And
they still put you up there?
They didn't know.
Okay.
Jeez. They didn't know. But I went up and I did it and I laughed and I didn't take it seriously at all. But I owe a lot to Pastor Mel for making that call, because from there, once I had that moment to say, like, who am I? What am I doing? I then approached Honorable Melvin Turnbull, who was the youth leader at that time, and the musical director for Joy Praise. I approached him and said, hey, one Sunday a month really isn't enough for me. Can I get to sing with Joy Praise? And he said, sure, come. And that's where things started to build up for me there.
Nice. Yeah. Amazing. Jovan, I want to thank you so much for your candid honesty in really sharing, and we appreciate it very much. At the end of the day, one of the things that I love is that, and I personally get to take away, and I hope the young men watching get to take away, is that our experiences shape who we are. Essentially, they help us to become stronger and better, well-rounded men. Nothing happens by incident. All of the experiences that you have shared, I could collectively understand how they have made you and molded you into the very awesome person that you are today. So thank you for your honesty. We appreciate you. Continue doing amazing things. Continue counseling. Continue worshiping. Continue trying to help the youth. We appreciate you and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. Viewers, that's all the time we have.